We've been talking about the future of work, and the future of work is here. All right, I am pumped up and excited because now we're getting into some serious meat here. In order to really figure out how to help you lead in this new world, there was language that didn't even exist that we had to create. Well, like co-elevation. But there's one particular word that I want you to adopt and to really massage and to understand, because it's so important as a tipping point to your success with people as a leader. And that word is porosity. Now, porosity was something I learned a long time ago when I used to work at a chemical manufacturer. Porosity is what a molecule is. A molecule is either porous, it's absorptive, it's open, or it's not porous, right? This wood is more porous than glass. A sponge is incredibly porous. It absorbs, it soaks in, right? As a leader, our job is to manage other people's porosity. Let's soak that in for a second. As a leader, our job is to manage other people's porosity. When you walk into a room, if that group is braced against what you're going to say, you're a poor leader. If you walk into that room and you help that group of individuals be open and excited and fluid and capable and willing, right, then that individual is deeply porous and you're a better leader. The principle of porosity is something that is so crucial to you as you begin to think about the early enlistment, the early engagement, the early recruitment of your critical team. So once again, I want you to be mindful of what are you trying to achieve, who are you trying to achieve it with, and now the question is, how, with a specific individual, do you open porosity with them? Now, it's very important that you open porosity at the individual level, at least at the beginning. We'll teach you how to go to scale as a leader later, but right now I want you to be focused on the one-to-one relationships that are crucial to you. And the reason I say that it's so important to do it one-to-one is because individuals would be better influenced if you're speaking directly to them. You know, there's always the what's in it for them philosophy, but there's a wonderful old rule that I want to reboot for you. You know the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. I would actually go one step further, and I believe that I've created a new rule called the platinum rule. The platinum rule is one step above gold, and it's very simple. Do unto others as they would want to have done unto them. I've learned this early on in working with children. When I was trying to get my kids to open up to things that I wanted them to change, I could say to one of my boys, stop eating that way. Well, what I'm basically saying is, stop eating that way for me. Now, I've broken all the rules of opening porosity because, first of all, I don't care about their desire to stop eating. I am saying, I want you to stop eating, so stop eating that way. I'm using control, I'm using command. There's nothing about the individual in that phrase. There's no enlistment, right? Alternatively, I could pause for a moment and I could think, what does my son care about? Oh, that girl Leslie at school that he often talks about. So I might say, you know, I was just curious, has Leslie ever seen or eaten with you at lunch? Well, what do you mean? Well, I'm just curious because, you know, some girls like to have different levels of eating hygiene than others, and you know, they usually have a little different standard than some boys do. Well, what do you mean by that? Now, all of a sudden, I've engaged my boy on a level that's interesting to him. Don't eat that way for me versus I would like you to consider something that matters to you, and how what I would like you to try to think about or do matters to something that matters to you. The platinum rule, right? Now, let me also talk a little bit about the level of enlistment that I would like you to begin to put into your standard of reaching out to people. A lot of people in the olden days would reach out to individuals almost as I did, don't eat that way, right? Or, hey, come to my meeting, it's my meeting, here's my agenda, I want you to come and participate, I'd like you to come and enlist in something that I'm working on. This is all about me, right? I went to a seminar a number of years ago. It was here in Los Angeles. And I learned something that was very powerful. It was called Landmark. It was very powerful. And it was leaving an individual in dialogue, touched, moved, and inspired. Wow. And you just think about that. If you need to leave people touched, moved, and inspired, the responsibility on you, remember it's all on you, the responsibility on you to lift that person up is, again, extraordinary. But the level that you're lifting them up, it's almost like there's this principle called Net Promoter Score. Basically what we learned a number of years ago, that if you're gonna make a difference in a customer's life, being 80% is no different than being 60 or 70%. Meaning you gotta be 98% there. You've gotta be somebody that moves them, inspires them, has blown them away for them to have enough promoter score, for them to have enough interest in you, that they're gonna go tell their friends, that they're gonna be really loyal. So once again, look, it's not a surprise. In this world, if you're looking to enlist people that don't have to join your team, but you want them to join your team, you need to go to that level. You need to ratchet the bar up. You need to really go to the top level you could possibly do. And the intention here is to do the following: serve, share, and care. It's a pretty simple formula: serve, share, and care. That individual needs to believe that you are serving their needs. That individual needs to connect with you authentically, and you need to share with them your passion, your mission, your vulnerability, who you are, and that person needs to know that you care about them just like a member of your solid team used to, or you would hope that would if you were their manager. So this individual needs to be wooed and wowed through your service, through your sharing, and through your caring. That's the standard methodology to enlist a relationship at the level of porosity that leaves them touched, moved, and inspired. Okay, so let's really get down into the details of some very specific tactics. Hopefully you've got an individual in your mind right now that you need to enlist for what you're trying to achieve. Enlist onto your team. Most of us would have started with logic. Most of us would have started with a conversation with them that is logical and probably from the perspective of your needs. But I would like you to still be logical, but now from the perspective of their needs. You need to reach out to that individual and imagine how what you're trying to achieve could be a benefit. So for instance, if Zena, who I mentioned earlier, if Zena, who's trying to reinvent patient care, is wanting to reach out to Devin, a nurse who owns the inventory management system, how can Zena reach out to Devin and talk about how respectful that Zena is of Devin and all of the years of Devin's service, and how she recognizes how hard Devin works from all the things that Devin needs to do. And if there's any way that she could be of service in helping any element of what Devin's got to do, including inventory management, which might be in our area of interest of hers, that she could actually get involved with, etc. So you see what I'm saying? You're reaching out to an individual and you're seeing a way to pose the project that's not just logical and from your perspective, but logical and then from their perspective. Now, the next thing that has to occur is that some level of emotion needs to be introduced into the relationship. To that end, I believe that you should begin to tell your story to that individual authentically and vulnerably as early as possible. Now, your story could have to do with the mission at hand. You could say to Devin, my desire and the reason I got into medicine was to make a difference in patients' lives. And I am so desirous of doing anything that I can do. Obviously, I try to bring it to my day-to-day engagement with our customers and with our patients. But on a day-to-day basis, I'd like to go further. I'd like to do anything that I can do that could possibly help patient care. And let them know that it's grounded. What's the backstory? What's the reasoning for it, etc. And even if you're not necessarily sure what the mission is you want to share with somebody right now, but you've identified a specific individual, then the backstory is just your backstory. And for me, it's quite easy. I mean, my backstory is I'm a poor kid from Pittsburgh that saw his dad struggling in unemployment, economic insecurity in our family and in our neighborhood, and steel industries closing. And I, damn it, made a commitment early on in my life that I was going to grow up and make a difference. I was going to make a difference in the world of work. And I've constantly pursued how to accelerate and transform and grow organizations and human behavior in work, because it goes right back to the roots of seeing my dad come home beaten and fatigued, talking at the dinner table about all of the things that he saw that were possible, that nobody was giving him the respect as an employee to listen to. And I don't want any family to go through what I went through. I don't want any family to lose their job like I lost and I experienced as a child growing up in economic insecurity. That backstory becomes so powerful and important for you. you've got to start asking yourself, what is your backstory? What is your backstory behind the mission? What is your backstory for yourself personally that will enlist another individual? And you're not being vulnerable for vulnerability's sake. You're being vulnerable to establish trust, authentic relationships, and connection with this individual. There's lots of research, and we'll talk about it in the book when you read it, around psychological safety and how important it is to create psychological safety in people. And Brene Brown's work, we talk a lot about it in the book, and how important Brene Brown's work is around vulnerability and being authentic and being human, is that sharing connection with another individual. Once again, I mentioned to you, the platinum rule. The platinum rule is so important that all of this, you're looking at that individual and asking, how is it landing on this individual? How is it about them and not just about you? Now, if you're successful early on and as you're listing this person, you need to figure out, what are these individuals' dreams? I mentioned to you a while ago that I've been ramping up a marketing organization. Well, from my perspective, I've got to understand how, by working with me to get you these messages, am I going to be able to help the people in my marketing organization achieve their dreams? What are their dreams? What are they trying to achieve in life? What skills are they trying to build? Where do they want to take their career? What economic security do they want to have? As a result of understanding all of those things, I can begin to deliver and work not only on the mission at hand, which is getting this extraordinary book into the hands of people to change their lives, but at the same time, I can be concurrently focusing on the mission of their lives. And together we can go higher. Remember, we're co-elevating. This isn't elevating for you or me, it's elevating for us. It's a co-elevating mission of enlisting people in their dreams, hopes, and goals through working together on achieving both a mission and coaching each other in the process. One of the things that is also important is that you really create a joyful process. We'll be talking about celebration later, but joy, inviting them into something that's belonging, inviting them into something bigger, inviting them into something that is meaningful. So for your ability to wrap what you're trying to do in a bigger idea, that they can be a part of winning together as a tribe, as a team, achieving big ideas. Remember, the world is pressuring you to transform. So be bold and work with a group of individuals and help them transform. So many of your peers are sitting in small jobs, in small cubicles. Enlist them in going higher, enlist them in bigger dreams. As a result, your leadership, which will be aspirational, will meet them in where they are and bring them higher as well. That's so important. Serve, share, and care. Look, the care piece, you can say that, well, that's organic and has to be something that is either there or it's not there. But no, it's a choice. Your ability to work hard in getting your head around another individual's life, around their success, around lifting them up, that's a choice. And leading with care and leading with the words that I care about your success, I care about this mission, I care about what this team can achieve. All of these things, the words you use are so important, and your ability to enlist a group of individuals in us, in a tribe. I always say that the first person that you invite into your team, you're actually inviting them into their team. They are now on your team. No, they are on their team. They are on their team, and together you will go higher. It used to be you had to convince your teammates to join and convince people to join your team. No, now you invite them. Inviting language that is something that's aspirational, that you're setting a North Star for the mission and for that individual. That's the key to porosity and opening that porosity. That's your key to moving from having scarce resources to having abundant resources. That's the key from frustrated and loneliness and fatigue to being more joyful and celebratory with a group of individuals going to do extraordinary things together. That's the key, opening porosity. It's the key to leadership. So what I want you to do as you leave here today is I want you to ask yourself, who is that individual? And re-listen to this if you need to, but focus on what are all the things you're going to bring to bear to enlist and open the porosity and invite somebody in to be touched, moved, inspired, and co-create this extraordinary mission with you. Now, listen, I told you earlier on that you were joining me for a journey. Now, realize what's happening. You're inviting people in for a journey, right? You are a co-elevating leader. You've identified them. You've begun to think about what that vision is. Now you're that leader inviting them into the journey.